Right, good morning everybody. All right, well we're heading out to the north side today, and of course, first of all, so good morning Queensland. And as we know that there are still a lot of families that are impacted, and today we're here with local members Jimmy Sullivan and Leanne Linnard. And Jimmy's just been pointing out to us over here, the Kedron Brook, the impact that they've had here locally on the paths, the bikeways. Usually it's buzzing with people, a lot of damage done here, but also too we'll be going out talking to people in the affected suburbs, and then we'll be heading up to Redcliffe as well. But can I just thank Major General Jake Elwood for the great work he's done. Yesterday he hit the ground running with myself and also the Deputy Premier. We were out and about, we went and spoke to people in Goodna. As I said yesterday, it is heartbreaking, and to hear the stories of basically water right up to the roof line, having lost everything, but the enormous show of support from community organisations. Tees were out there doing a barbecue, Westpac was out helping, the local basketball team from Springfield. The community is just coming together and helping out, and of course we've got the Army and the councils working together in that Ipswich region. We then went and had a look at Rockley State School, and of course a lot of damage has been done there to the school. And we then went to Fairfield, had a look at Fairfield, the damage there, and then to the Milton Ferry. So look, there is a lot of damage across the state, 22 councils that have been impacted, and we are going to work really hard, which is the next phase as we move into recovery, recognising there are a lot of people that aren't living in their own homes at the moment, and we've been talking to them, and whilst they are in emergency housing, we do understand the need to try and get something closer to their homes as quickly as possible. Well, I can also advise that when we head up to the Moreton region, there were 447 properties flooded, and there were 5,803 grants received totalling over $1 million. And the Moreton Bay region was also severely impacted. It was definitely in the top 3 of the regions impacted. And as we know, the north side of Brisbane was also heavily impacted as well. So at our first opportunity, we've come out to have a look here today. So in relation to total damage assessments, there have now been 17,384 that have been done. The Deputy Premier will give an update on that. Can I also advise people that the Bureau is predicting some isolated storms this afternoon, so please take care if you're out on the roads, because of course that flash flooding can happen at any time as well. I can also advise that total repayments have been made of community recovery grants totalling $6.83 million, benefiting over 38,000 people. So it's good to see that money quickly out the door and those recovery hubs that are being set up, as I mentioned yesterday. I've also been advised that the monitored flows from Wivenhoe will also end this afternoon as well. And from all accounts, they've done a pretty good job there, so well done, and exactly what they said was going to happen did. And Wivenhoe is now at 88.6%, so that's good to see. We still have 6 schools that are impacted, and we also know that there is going to be a big effort with this flood cleanup. So local councils, I know, have a big job to get the rubbish off thousands of streets, and what we're doing today is that we are announcing that we are going to be waiving our waste levies for all flood-related waste. Households don't pay these levies, but businesses and industries do. So 12 councils have waste levy exemptions, and they are Fraser Coast, Gympie, Noosa, Moreton Bay, Brisbane, Logan, Gold Coast, Ipswich, the Lockyer Valley, Somerset, Toowoomba and North Burnett, and hopefully that will make things go a little bit faster. And I'm happy to also, we'll see what the New South Wales Premier said, but some of the rubbish is also coming up from northern New South Wales, from businesses and everything. So perhaps the New South Wales Premier can look at something similar there, but I'll leave that to them. All right, so I'll hand over to the Major General and then the Deputy Premier. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Premier. It was really quite a sight to behold yesterday going to these sites. The devastation is significant. Families' lives have been turned on their head, but the resilience is amazing, and as is the community support, to see community leaders out there supporting, to see the Australian Defence Force out there. Queensland Reconstruction Authority are doing an amazing job. The emergency services, again, doing fantastic work. So to me, it was very valuable and will continue to be so as I go out to all the different areas to understand how each area is impacted. And I must say, as you go to each area, each area is slightly different, and so it is important to understand that nuance. But so, yeah, I see over the next few weeks it will be consistently going out to to different communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Premier. Of those more than 17,000 damage assessments now completed, 2,534 properties have suffered moderate damage, 1,797 have suffered severe damage. As you can tell, the Disaster Recovery Coordinator, the Major General, has already hit the ground running. He's doing a great job visiting parts of flood-affected communities, along with the Premier and I yesterday and today. Having someone on the ground able to speak to people, to see and to respond to their immediate recovery needs is incredibly valuable. What we saw yesterday was that simply clearing out the waste is an ongoing challenge in many areas, and so the announcement the Premier has just made about the waiving of the waste levy will assist as we continue to get those footpaths and homes and businesses cleaned up.
Thank you, Acting State Disaster Coordinator, Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you, Premier. Look, sadly we've lost 13 lives during this event, and we're already seeing now today forecasts for some severe storms this afternoon. We're already starting to see them build out in the west towards Wivenhoe. So can I please ask everyone today just to stay tuned to the Bureau of Meteorology. We will see rapid rises around roads, flash flooding around roads, so please do not enter the roadways. We still have one missing person that we're aware of from Bulimba, and you would have seen yesterday we did quite an extensive search for a person that we believed had entered the river yesterday morning who's not been located. Those investigations are still ongoing as to whether or not that person did enter the water, and we'll continue that work. The police are continuing their looting patrols. I can assure the communities that have had to leave their houses that we're there to support you and protect you. We've seen some disgusting behaviour from Queenslanders during this event, going around looting people's houses that are at absolute time of need. But can I say the behaviour we've seen from the majority of Queenslanders has been fantastic. So could I just ask people, if you do see suspicious behaviour, please report it to Police Link on 131 444, and we have our patrols out there to support you. But I can assure you that we are doing everything we can to make sure you and your property is safe during your time of need. Thank you. Thank you.
Jimmy and Leanne.
Thanks. I'll just thank the Premier and the Deputy Premier for coming out here on the north side to see some of the devastation that we've had in our community. They've been in contact with us constantly over the last few weeks, and have really been concerned right across the north side. Here in the Stafford electorate, we've had a real range of devastation. I grew up on the Brook, I know it floods, but nothing this bad have I seen in my lifetime. As the Major General reflected, we've seen devastation, but also really strong community spirit. We've had a lot of our really important community sporting clubs go under, some with minor damage, some with significant wiping out of their clubhouses and their playing fields. So to see the volunteers and to see the community spirit at our women's sporting precinct at Downey Park with our softball, netball and hockey there, the Gold Coast Cricket Club, with the Brisbane City Football, all of whom had significant damage, but everybody got in there, chipped in, and he's really trying to get the job done to get out effectively, and importantly to get our kids back playing. I've also been supporting local charities out here who, while not injured themselves, have taken a real leadership role in connecting people who have been impacted. And I think supporting those community organisations is really important now more than ever, because when we do suffer devastation like this, that's the time we do need to come together. So it's fantastic that the government is supporting those local sporting groups getting back on their feet through their grants, and also supporting those community organisations who do such an important role, play such an important role in our community. And I would just reflect, Premier, that one of the other impacts here, in this part of the town, particularly in our hilly suburbs, has been, it's not just about creek flooding, it's also been about localised flooding, where homes that have never gone under before suffered significant damage, where roads that never went under before were flooded for significant amounts of time, meaning people were landlocked, they couldn't get home, they couldn't get their kids from school or from work. Those sort of issues are what we faced in pockets right across the north side, and I think that's what you'll see as you spend your day out with us today. So thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, Leanne. Getting out to your area too.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Premier, for coming. I just want to second the comments of Jimmy. The Premier and the team have been amazing. Every single one of us gets that opportunity to say how our community is and what we need. So, Premier, to have you out here is really encouraging and buoying for our community, and we thank you for coming. The electorate of Nudgee, of course, we share a boundary, Jimmy and I, and the Kedron Brook runs through that electorate. Certainly the flooding and the inundation that we saw in my community was worse this time than 2011. We saw residences in Zilmia, low-lying areas of Zilmia, also North Boondall were affected, and dramatically so, and those poor residents continue their clean-up. We also saw businesses in the low-lying areas of Virginia, catastrophic damage to those businesses, and talking to them about their hopes for their business, and now trying to get back on the road and continue doing what they were doing. It's difficult to hear those stories, but equally our sporting clubs down in Shore Park, extraordinary damage, catastrophic damage to Valley's Hockey Club. Those things are difficult to hear, they're difficult to see, and being amongst our community every day hearing those stories has been a challenge. But what has been so encouraging is just the incredible heart that people show for one another, but also our incredible frontline services. What QBuild has done in our schools, what Queensland Rail has done at Toombul to get the services, Northside services, back up and running so quickly was extraordinary. In the rain, I was out talking to our Queensland Rail staff. They were working on that bridge, doing everything they could in difficult circumstances. Equally, our residents coming out and helping the next door neighbour. Or when I was at a business down at Zilmia, they were next door in the next business sweeping out mud. So I just think that's such an indication of what makes Queensland so great. The clean-up continues, but we're all doing it and helping one another. So I just want to thank everyone on the ground, and again say thank you, Premier, for coming and showing our community that you have eyes here and you have eyes across every affected area. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Minister. I'm happy to take some questions.
Premier, a national emergency has been declared in northern New South Wales but not Queensland. Do you know why that is?
We declare councils as they unfold as disaster. We have an emergency disaster declaration, so most of those councils have been declared. Yeah.
But from the federal level?
Look, that's a matter for the federal government. I understand the Prime Minister's in town tomorrow, and he'll get to see firsthand the impact in Queensland.
Premier, are you looking at helping with emergency accommodation? Is there any talk of setting up hotels like you did for COVID quarantine to help?
Yeah, we're already doing that. Yeah, it's a really good question. I did discuss a bit of that yesterday. We are actually have a lot of people in emergency accommodation. Some people go to family and friends in the first instance. This was very well practiced, I mentioned yesterday, in Townsville, where we sourced apartments. And of course, now that we don't need the hotels for quarantine, we've actually spoken to some of them as well as short-term accommodation. And I actually spoke to some residents in Goodna that do actually have that emergency accommodation.
Premier, with the waste levy, is that an annual payment? How does that work?
I might get the Deputy Premier to address that in a moment, but are there any other questions?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, would the state government consider a buyback of properties in flood-prone areas?
Look, the Deputy Premier said that he'll be speaking with the councils about that. I know that he regularly goes to the local government association conferences as well. But what you have to remember here too is these are people's homes, and I can understand the emotional attachment that people have to their homes. We've seen in flooded creek areas before, as what happened after the 2011 floods, for example in Oxley, where houses were actually built up higher with concrete underneath, so it was easy to hose out. So there are some good examples of where that has happened with the rebuilds, but of course I think it's going to come down to individual councils speaking with those property owners one-on-one.
Do you not
Premier,
have
are
to take
we-
some responsibility though for having those hard conversations about areas that simply shouldn't rebuild? That's what the Insurance Council of Australia said the government needs to do.
Yeah, well, I'll get the Deputy Premier to address that, but councils in the first instance are responsible for those planning and those zoning areas. And unfortunately, as you heard from Jimmy and Leanne, this flood was mainly creeks, streams and areas that hadn't flooded before. So I think we need to look at, stormwater drains, all of those issues which are council issues. But of course, where there are state issues, we will look at that as well.
Premier, will the state government consider providing subsidies for homeowners to flood-proof their homes in the future?
I might get the Deputy Premier to address that. I know that what we've done in the north of the state is we've looked at a resilience program, especially those homes that have been built before a certain period, to strengthen them in terms of cyclone impact damage. But like I said, there are measures that people can learn from the last floods when they were impacted and the houses were either built up higher or in the instance of Grantham, they actually built a separate area. But I know that these are the conversations that the Deputy Premier is having with the councils.
Premier, we've had people tell us.
Sorry.
Premier, we've had people tell us that they've lost a lot of expensive possessions in storage sheds, and they're not covered by federal assistance. Is there any way to help those people?
As I said, the Prime Minister's here tomorrow. These are very good questions for federal assistance.
Will you be holding a full review or inquiry into the 2022 floods, and will that look at your own government's handling of communication in the lead up to Sunday's floods?
Oh, we always do. So what we have is we have the Emergency Management Authority that does a complete independent review. As we've done with other natural disasters, they get tabled in the Parliament at the first opportunity. So of course that will happen. But let me also say, everybody knows this was an extraordinary, unprecedented weather event, the likes of which we've never seen before, where we had 3 to 4 days rainfall that in Brisbane alone that accounted for something like 2/3 of the annual rainfall. Now you only have to see this weather system has actually progressed all the way down to New South Wales and is causing havoc in Sydney at the moment. And can I, on behalf of Queenslanders, express our sympathies as well to all of the people in New South Wales that are going through the same experiences that Queenslanders went through. It reminds me of Tropical Cyclone Debbie, if you can remember. It crossed the coast, came all the way down to the southern parts of our state, and then went on to the northern parts of New South Wales, and then went over to New Zealand. This is a very fierce system.
Will your review also look at the management of Ivanhoe Dam in the last week or so?
Absolutely, and let me say very clearly once again that the Ivanhoe Dam was managed in accordance with the manual, and we also saw unprecedented flooding. As I've said before, Shannon, you only have to go back through all my press conferences. We saw unprecedented flooding from the Mary River, which flows into Gympie and to Maryborough. We saw unprecedented flooding in the Logan River as well. So you need to have a look at all of the southeast and the catchments and everything. And what Ivanhoe did, and you know what, the public understands this because they've been coming up and talking to me about this. The public clearly understands this. The Ivanhoe held back 4 Sydney harbours. There was so much rainfall. I had people stopping me in Gympie saying, mate, we've never seen rainfall like this in our whole entire lives. So the public understand it. I've been very thorough about this, and there will be a thorough review. It is independent, and it gets tabled in the Queensland Parliament.
And obviously you're looking to build up the capacity of the dam. When will that happen?
Sorry?
You're obviously building the capacity of the dam, increasing it. When will that happen?
Look, you'll have to talk to the Water Minister about that.
Premier, just on domestic violence,
Yes.
there's been some harrowing evidence come out of the Doreen Langham inquest, including
Yeah.
a junior police officer says that their domestic violence training was fast-tracked due to COVID. What do you
Yeah,
make
look,
of
I'm
those
going to wait
arguments?
until after that inquest. There'll be recommendations that come out of that. We also have the McMurdo report that's being worked through as well. She's done her first inquiry. There will be the second one that'll be handed down. look, all of these are very serious issues. You know, it's a very tough, complex issue, and let's just wait and see what the coronial inquest says and the recommendations that flow from that.
Premier, just on the submarine stuff, I know you're still waiting for details from the federal government, but what's your personal opinion? Would Brisbane be a good host?
Well, I think you should ask the Prime Minister that. He'll be here tomorrow.
What's your personal
No,
opinion, Premier?
he'll be here tomorrow. It is a federal decision. It is in the lead up to a federal election, and I do not have any detail. I have just as much detail as the whole Queensland public has when Peter Dutton made those announcements yesterday. I know just as much as you. The Prime Minister's in town tomorrow. Very good question to put to him.
Your government's been advocating Queensland becoming the car key state, so why aren't we jumping at this opportunity?
Well, you talk to him tomorrow. I don't have any detail.
Premier,
You want me to comment on something I have no detail?
have you seen or read any more about the revelations in Four Corners and to do with rheumatic heart disease and imaging?
As I said yesterday, the Health Minister has launched that strategy, and she has put money into it, including money into remote communities.
She wasn't available for to talk yesterday about it.
Well, she's available today. You can talk to her today
But
about
what
it.
is the government doing right now to combat a preventable disease and ensure that there's adequate care for people with this disease in a very remote community in the state?
Yeah, I know, and that's exactly why she's announced the strategy. It's an Australian first,
Didn't the strategy
and
come too late?
and $7 million. $7 million. So look, it's a very I appreciate it's a very serious issue. She's available today. You can have a chat to her today. All right. Now,
Deputy Premier?
I was just about to bring the deputy in. Everyone, just be a little bit patient, okay? No. All right.
Who did you want, Sally? Oh, good.
Yeah, they both want you, DP.
Deputy Premier, we just heard from the Premier say that you provide subsidies for places in far north Queensland to protect against cyclones. Is it time to do the same thing for floods in South East Queensland?
Well, post 2011, there was a program that the state government.
Well, shit.
Oh,
Oh no! Oh, Mikey!
Sorry.
take your jacket
Shall we
off.
continue?
And
Take the jacket off. Uh-oh. Everyone look above.
You got on your forehead as well, mate.
Oh no. Has anyone got some tissues?
Dave, this is on you, mate.
Oh, there's a hanky. Here we are.
Thank you.
I'm going to answer quickly.
Okay, everyone.
It's meant to be good luck.
There was a program jointly funded between the state government and local councils to administer those household resilience projects. Many of those were very successful, and that's one of the programs that we will go back to now as we begin to consider what our Build Back Better, our betterment program, looks like out of this disaster.
The council says it can't, Brisbane City Council says it can't afford to buy back homes on its own. Is the state government looking at sharing the cost of them?
We certainly have in the past, and so as I say, that's one of the options that will be on the table and under consideration. It's likely to be the preferred option only for a section of the numbers of properties affected. We need to assess the full range of options. In many cases, those same resilience funds were used to build up, to change building materials, and we also have to look at levees, stormwater drains, that kind of thing. This disaster was quite different, and so whereas in 2011 we could look at where the river ran and overflowed, in this case we need to look at each individual neighbourhood and identify what caused the flooding in each individual case. Now that might take a bit longer, but it will allow us to properly consider what the best options are, as I say, whether that is levees, stormwater improvements, backflow drainage improvements, allowing for higher rebuilds, planning changes, the full range of options. But you're right, where none of those alternatives can work, then we'll talk to residents about other options as well.
You mentioned there was 1,797 properties that suffered severe damage. Is that likely the number that you're going to be looking at in numbers of properties that need to be resumed? Are we talking thousands here?
No, that's the number of properties we'll need to look at in terms of the full range of resilience options to try to make sure that either they are less prone to flooding or that they are more that they are easy, that they can be better recovered post disasters. But yes, that's the scale of the number of properties that will need to be repaired out of this disaster, and we'll want to make sure that those repairs build back better rather than just building back the same.
The Insurance Council of Australia says the state government is the one that needs to have these tough conversations with some communities where that does need to happen. Is that going to be a conversation that the state government will hold? Because obviously climate change is making these events a lot more frequent.
Well, that's right. And I met with the Insurance Council last week to start to have those kinds of conversations. I don't think it will be up to just one level of government. We think these programs are generally best administered by local government. They have the best on-the-ground intelligence about those local communities. And of course, we will need funding assistance from the Commonwealth government in order to be able to deliver them. Let's not forget that the Morrison government announced a $5 billion mitigation resilience program, and that was 3 disaster seasons ago. They've only funded $50 million, and none of those are construction projects. So in the meantime, they have made $850 million of interest off that fund. They are making a profit of funds that they have not spent, making Queensland more resilient. And we put in 20 projects for flood mitigation. They rejected 17 of them. They only funded 3, none of them in the southeast. And one of those projects that we got no explanation for why they wouldn't fund it was the flood warning system, which of course is so critical for communities preparing for these disasters as they come.
Okay, guys, thanks. We've got to wrap this up.
Thank you. Got to keep going.
Thank you.
That's going to go viral in an hour.
They just